Chapter 11. Look for the loophole.
Most ads are full of loopholes. Roy, I'm way ahead of you on this one. I always look for the loophole, and I usually find it. Loopholes are the reason I ignore most advertising. Yes, I know you're good at spotting the loophole, because so is everyone else. If you want your advertising to be more productive, you need to quit looking for the loopholes in other people's ads and start looking for the loopholes in your own. A persuasive intellectual ad begins with a frank statement of benefit, then quickly substantiates every claim. Closing loopholes is the difference between merely informing the customer and persuading her. Below is an example of a persuasive intellectual ad, with the customer's thoughts following. Parkins and Matic will cut the cost of your insurance by at least 10%. Or what? Or buy you dinner at the Plaza del Fuego. I'm not sitting through a 2-hour sales pitch just for a lousy dinner. All it takes is a 3-minute phone call and there's no one you have to meet. Still too much of a hassle. I don't know the details of my coverage. So the next time you reach in your mailbox and pull out the insurance renewal, walk straight to the phone and call Parkins and Matic. Read them the limits and deductibles printed on the notice. That's right. The renewal notice has the details of my coverage on it. And they will immediately name the price at which they can give you identical coverage. Apples for apples. Identical coverage? No one to meet? Just 3 minutes? If the Parkins and Matic price isn't at least 10% lower, you're off to the Plaza del Fuego. I've always wanted to go to the Plaza del Fuego. You're going to have to write someone a check. Why not write a smaller one? To Parkins and Matic. I need to remember to call these guys when I get my renewal notice. If Parkins and Matic were patient and gave this ad sufficient repetition, it would keep their telephones dancing across their desktops month after month, year after year. Unfortunately, the ad below is the one you're more likely to hear. For more than 50 years, hundreds of families have trusted their insurance needs to the caring professionals at Parkins and Matic. Why? Because competitive pricing is a Parkins and Matic specialty. Competitive? Doesn't that mean about the same price as everyone else? And they're known for their fast, fair, and friendly service. Yeah, until you have a claim. So when you need auto, home, health, life, or any other type of insurance, I just love talking about insurance. Find out how much Parkins and Matic can save you by calling them. Is that softball game tonight or tomorrow night? At 862-3791. I think I'll stop and get a Coke. That number again is 862-3791. And maybe some fries. I love French fries. Parkins and Matic is open weekdays till 7 for your convenience. I think that game's tomorrow night. And until 4 on Saturdays, but closed on Sundays. But I better call and check on it. Find out for yourself why hundreds of families. Should I take a burger home for Bobby? Trust Parkins and Matic year after year. Yeah, a burger with cheese. Call Parkins and Matic today at 862-3791. I'll get myself one, too. You'll be glad you did, but without the cheese. Do you see the difference?
Chapter 12. When the truth is not persuasive.
I know it will shock you to hear this, but telling the truth is rarely persuasive. This unfortunate fact has caused many business owners to invent a whole new language of deceit. This language is often excused as advertising. Deceitful advertising is common today because the honest business people of yesterday assumed all they had to do was tell the truth about their superior products. The result all too often was a dramatic loss of business to competitors who used deceitful advertising to sell inferior goods. With his family's future on the line, the reluctant response of the honest business person was often to fight fire with fire. Anyone who believes in this philosophy has obviously never tried to put out a fire. The tragic result of fighting fire with fire has been a nationwide inferno of deceitful advertising. If the public won't buy it for $20, we'll mark it $40 and sell it for half price. These business owners knew they couldn't fool all the people all the time, but they were able to make a nice income fooling some of the people some of the time. Now these business owners are frightened because it's getting harder to fool any of the people any of the time. The real tragedy is that so many honest business people abandoned the truth in their advertising. You see, it wasn't the truth that was ineffective. The mistake was assuming it was enough to simply tell it. If you want the truth to prevail, you must cause people to realize the truth. This requires much more skill than is required to simply tell it. Honest persuasion is the water that will put out any fire. Truth, we are told, is truth we may not accept, but the truth we have realized is the only truth we own.
Chapter 13. Velcro, the ad writer's friend.
The goal of advertising is for your message to hold tightly to the brain. Most advertising does not. Do you want the public to remember your ads? The secret is Velcro. George de Mestral discovered the secret of memorable advertising in 1941 in the Jura Mountains of France. After a day of hunting, scrambling through woods and brush, he found his wool pants covered with burrs. No matter how hard he tried to remove them, these little burrs were in his pants to stay. Fascinated by their tenacity, George inspected them under a magnifying glass and found that each of them had hundreds of tiny hooks engaged in the loops of his woolen fabric. George made a machine to duplicate the hooks and loops using nylon. He called his new product Velcro, from the French words velours and crochet. The rough side of Velcro is made of tiny, flexible hooks. The fuzzy side, small, soft loops. Therein lies the secret of memorable advertising. What is the brain but a surface covered with trillions of tiny, flexible hooks? What is memorable advertising but a series of words, sounds, or mental images covered with small, soft loops? You must cover your ads with small, soft loops. But it's not as simple as it seems. Have you ever noticed how some pieces of Velcro hold much tighter than others? George de Mestral found that randomly oriented loops offer much greater holding power than loops arranged in neat rows. The more unpredictable the loops, the stronger the bond. Neatly arranged loops have little holding power. When ad writers present their clients' information in a predictable manner or use predictable words, they are making orderly loops. The advertiser may like the ad because it's accurate and positive, but such ads have weak Velcro. They are forgettable. The human mind discounts the predictable. When you see the punchline coming, the joke is never funny. There can be no curiosity where there is no mystery, no delight where there is no surprise. When you understand the Velcro of the mind, you're halfway to fame and fortune. The only thing you need now is a mental trigger. But we'll talk about that in another chapter.
Memory is a net. One finds it full of fish when he takes it from the brook, but a dozen miles of water have run through it without sticking. Oliver Wendell Holmes.
Chapter 14. Reaching the Right People.
Advertising began to deteriorate the day we let the scientific types get involved. Now, don't get me wrong. I think there's a place for every type of person. But scientific types should stick with things scientific. Unfortunately, someone forgot to lock the door one day, and a scientific type slipped in and said, "The secret to more effective advertising would be to reach the right people." I wish I had been there. I would have casually turned to him and said, "It's not who you reach, it's what you say, stupid," and ended the whole thing right there. But I wasn't in the room. And since he was a scientific type and his idea made sense, everyone began walking in circles, mindlessly parroting, "Reach the right people, reach the right people, reach the right people." The problem is that advertising is not scientific. Trying to reach the right people usually leads to over-targeting and overconfidence. It has caused more stupid mistakes, frustration, and failures than any other myth in the history of commerce. It begins when the advertising salesperson says, "I've got the right people." And since you believe this is what matters most, you buy what he's selling. When the campaign fails, you don't consider the possibility that your ad was not persuasive or that it was not given enough repetition. You simply say, "He didn't have the right people after all." You blame the radio station for having the wrong kind of listener, the direct mail company for having a bad list, and the billboard company for giving you the wrong locations. American business owners are frustrated with their advertising because they keep trying to make it a science. Advertising is not a science. The assumption that an advertising salesperson can give you exclusive access to a particular group of people is simply ridiculous. Every American is reached by multiple vehicles of advertising every day. Having the right message is what matters. It's not who you reach, it's what you say.
The business that considers itself immune to the necessity of advertising sooner or later finds itself immune to business. Derby Brown.